She walked in on her boyfriend of 3 years with her best friend. But here's the part that'll make you smash the like button. They didn't apologize. They asked her to leave quietly so they wouldn't feel bad. And by the end of this story, that same woman will own everything they ever wanted. Comment where in the world you are watching from, and subscribe before I keep going, because it's about to get real. Sydni Amoran was 26 years old, a children's book illustrator from PG County, Maryland. Raised by a single mom who worked overnight shifts at a group home so Sydni could afford art supplies. She was soft but not weak, the type to let you cry on her shoulder but remember exactly who made you cry. Her boyfriend Devon Harris was 27, a personal trainer at a boutique gym, built like a dream but insecure like a nightmare. He wanted to be famous so bad he could taste it, but right then, he was just the guy with the nice smile and the late car note. And then there was Nia Richards, Sydney's best friend since 10th grade, always single, always wearing dupes of luxury bags. Funny and loud but deeply jealous of Sydney's stability, even though she'd never say it out loud. Here's how Sydney handed them the rope to hang her. Devon's gym needed a front desk person. Nia needed a job. Sydney begged Devon to hire her best friend. He said yes within an hour. That should have been the first red flag, how fast he agreed. 3 months later, Sydney was picking up extra shifts to save for a down payment on a little house in Hyattsville. Devon was suddenly working late. Nia was suddenly wearing earrings Sydney had left on Devon's dresser. But here's what realistic betrayal looks like: no ominous music, no slow-motion text message. It looked like Devon smiling at his phone while Sydney made him breakfast. It looked like Nia posting a mirror selfie in Devon's bathroom, but tagging the gym instead of the location. The night Sydney caught them, she wasn't looking for proof. She forgot her water bottle at the gym and walked back in at 10:47 p.m. Saw Devon's car in the back lot with the windows fogged up and Nia's cheap rhinestone sandals hanging out the passenger door. Sydney didn't knock, didn't cry. She took one photo, walked 9 blocks home and blocked them both before her key hit the lock. That night Nia texted her from a different number. No apology, just a quote that said, "Let go of what isn't for you." Sydney typed back these words: "You're both dead to me." Then she blocked that number too. She slept on her mom's couch for 3 weeks while she figured out how to afford a studio apartment on her own. Devon never showed up to help her move. 2 days after she left, Nia posted a photo of herself with Devon on Instagram with the caption, "New chapter." Sydney watched her mom cook dinner that night and decided she would never cry over either of them again. But deciding and doing are two different things. Sydni Amoran spent the first 2 weeks after the breakup sleeping on her mother's pull-out couch in a 2-bedroom apartment that already had her younger brother in the second bedroom. Her mother, Diane, worked the night shift at a nursing home and would come home at 7 a.m. to find Sydney still awake, staring at the ceiling. Diane did not ask questions. She just made breakfast and left a plate on the coffee table. That was the most painful part. Her mother never said, "I told you so," even though she had never liked Devon. She said he laughed too loud at his own jokes and never looked Sydney in the eye when she talked about her art. Sydney had $412 in her checking account. The apartment she shared with Devon was in his name only because his credit was better, which meant she had no claim to the security deposit. She had co-signed on his car loan, though, back when they thought they would be together forever. That car now belonged to a man who was posting Nia on his Instagram story every other day. Sydney called the bank and learned she could not remove herself from the loan unless Devon refinanced, which he had no reason to do. For the first time in her adult life, she understood what people meant when they said love is expensive to leave. She found a studio apartment in Hyattsville for $950 a month, utilities not included. The kitchen was a hot plate and a mini fridge. The bathroom had a window that did not fully close. Her mom drove her to move her things out of the old apartment while Devon was at work. Sydney packed everything she owned into 12 trash bags and 2 suitcases. When she opened the closet she used to share with Devon, she found her clothes pushed to one side. Nia's things were already hanging on the other side. A pink blazer, a pair of white boots, a silk robe that Sydney had bought Nia for her birthday 2 years ago. She left the robe. Back in the Hyattsville studio, Sydney tried to work. She was still illustrating a children's book for a small publisher, but the deadline was 2 weeks away and she could not focus. She would sit at her second-hand desk and draw the same rabbit over and over, erasing it each time because the rabbit kept looking sad. Her editor sent her an email that said, "We need these final pages by Friday, or we push the pub date." Sydney read it 3 times and then closed her laptop. She ordered takeout she could not afford and ate it on the floor because she did not own a table yet. Meanwhile, Devon was living as if he had won something. He posted a photo of Nia sitting on his kitchen counter with the caption, "Found my piece." Nia reposted it with 3 fire emojis. Mutual friends started picking sides. Most picked Sydney quietly, sending her text messages like, "You deserve better," and "I never trusted her anyway." But 2 weeks after the breakup, those same friends were still liking Devon's photos and commenting on Nia's stories. Sydney learned the hard way that most people would rather be polite than loyal. She stopped answering her phone for a week. The lowest point came on a Tuesday. Sydney was standing in a Target parking lot, holding a bag of ramen noodles and generic body wash, when she realized she was $3 short for a bottle of laundry detergent. She put the detergent back. Then she sat in her mom's old Honda that she had borrowed for the day and cried for exactly 4 minutes. Not longer, because she had learned as a child that crying never paid bills. She wiped her face, started the car, and drove home. That night she made a list on a piece of notebook paper, ways to make extra money. The list had 3 items: freelance illustrations, pet sitting, selling clothes she did not wear anymore. She listed 10 pieces of clothing on, including a coat that Devon had given her for Christmas 2 years ago. It sold in 3 hours. She packed it up and dropped it at the post office the next morning. No note, no second thoughts. That same week, she applied for a remote administrative assistant job that paid $22 an hour. She did not get it, but the rejection email came with a suggestion to apply for a different role at the same company. She applied again. This time she got an interview. It was scheduled for 10 a.m. on a Wednesday, which meant she had to borrow her mom's car again and find a quiet corner of the library because her apartment had no internet. She did the interview in the library's study room with her laptop propped on a stack of books. She got the job 3 days later. Devon found out about the job somehow. He sent her a text from a new number. She had blocked his old one that said, "Heard you got that remote gig. Happy for you. You always deserved good things." Read it and laughed. Not because it was funny, but because he really believed that one line erased everything. She did not respond. She saved the number as "Don't Answer" and went back to drawing rabbits that finally stopped looking sad. Worked that remote administrative job for 5 months before she started posting her illustrations online. She had always drawn for herself, filling sketchbooks that stayed stacked under her bed. But after the breakup, she needed something to do with her hands at night when the studio felt too small, and her mind kept replaying the image of sandals hanging out of Devon's car. She started drawing 1 illustration every evening, not for money, not for likes, just to prove to herself that she could still make something beautiful out of nothing. She posted her first piece on a Tuesday night under the username. It was a drawing of a woman sitting alone on a subway car, holding a single sunflower. The caption read, "Rebuilding." 23 people liked it. Most of them were strangers. That felt better than she expected. She posted another one 2 days later, then another one the day after that. Within 2 months, she had 600 followers. Within 4 months, she had 3,000. None of it was viral. She did not get a sudden explosion of attention. What she got was steady, a comment here, a share there, a message from another artist saying they loved her. The first money came from a small natural hair company based in Atlanta. The owner, a woman named, sent a direct message asking if she would design packaging art for a new line of edge controls. The budget was $800. Said yes before she could talk herself out of it. She finished the illustrations in 10 days, working after her administrative job ended at 5 p.m. and often staying up until 1 a.m. Loved the final design so much that she added a $500 bonus. Used that money to buy a real desk and a chair that did not hurt her back. She also bought her mother a gift card to the grocery store and told her it was from a freelance project. Cried. Did not, but it was close. Meanwhile, Devon and relationship was not the fairy tale they posted online. Heard through friends that had moved into the apartment within 3 weeks of leaving, but did not work full-time. She picked up makeup gigs here and there, but mostly stayed home and posted on social media. Devon was still a trainer at the same gym, but his hours had been cut because a new manager decided he was not a team player. He started complaining to clients about his personal problems, which made them uncomfortable. One client canceled her membership after Devon spent an entire session talking about how his ex-girlfriend had tried to ruin his life. That client was friends with Cousin. The story got back to within 48 hours. She did not feel satisfied. She felt tired. There is a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from watching someone destroy themselves after they destroyed you. It is not revenge. It is not justice. It is just sad. Felt it when her cousin sent her screenshots of Devon's Instagram story where he was reposting motivational quotes about loyalty. She felt it when sister accidentally liked one of old photos and then quickly unliked it. She decided to stop asking friends for updates. She told herself that whatever they did now was none of her business, and she meant it most days. 6 months after the breakup, got an invitation to a rooftop networking event from a woman she had met in an online group for Black women illustrators. The event was in Washington, D.C., at a new hotel that had a view of the Capitol. The ticket cost $40, which felt like a lot, but she had saved enough from her job and her freelance work to afford it. She almost did not go. The morning of the event, she stood in front her closet and talked herself out of it 3 separate times. Then she remembered that she had spent years shrinking herself to make Devon feel big. She put on a $40 dress she had hemmed herself, did her own makeup, and drove to D.C. The event was full of entrepreneurs, designers, and tech founders. Did not know anyone. She stood near the bar for 20 minutes, holding a glass of sparkling water, trying to look like she belonged. Then a man walked up to her and asked about her earrings. They were shaped like little books, a gift from her mother years ago. His name was, he was 29 years old, the founder of a digital wealth platform for overlooked communities. He was born in Atlanta to Ghanaian immigrant parents. He did not have Instagram. He did not post his business on social media. He was quiet in a way that felt intentional, not shy. And he was worth just over $1 billion, though he did not say that. Found out later from a friend who worked in finance. Did not flirt, he asked about her art. He asked how she got her lines so clean. He asked what she was working on now. Sydney told him about the children's book she was illustrating on the side, the one about a little girl who teaches her neighborhood how to save money. Kaelen listened without looking at his phone. Most people in D.C. look over your shoulder while you talk to see who else is in the room. He did not. When Sydney finished speaking, he said, "Your lines look like someone who has had to rebuild alone. I respect that." Then he handed her a business card and told her to email him, not for a date, for work. He was looking for an illustrator to help with a financial literacy book for kids. Sydney drove home that night and sat in her car for 10 minutes before going inside. She was not in love. She was not even sure she liked him yet. But for the first time in a long time, someone had looked at her work and seen her. Not her relationship history, not her heartbreak, her. She sent the email the next morning. Kaelen responded within 2 hours. They scheduled a call for the following week. She hung up the phone and opened her sketchbook. The rabbit she drew that night was smiling. Sydney Amorin met Kaelen Asant for coffee first, not dinner. That was his idea. He said he preferred to talk business without alcohol involved, which Sydney found strange at first and then refreshing. They met at a shop in Shaw that had mismatched chairs and jazz playing low enough to hold a conversation. Kaelen ordered black coffee. Sydney ordered tea. He pulled out a folder with a contract for a children's book about financial literacy, 12 illustrations, $15,000, full creative control. Sydney read every line twice. Then she signed it. She walked out of that coffee shop with a check for half the amount up front and a new understanding of what it felt like to be taken seriously. She worked on those illustrations for 2 months. Kaelen gave notes but never micromanaged. He trusted her instincts about color and composition. When she sent him a draft of a page showing a little girl putting coins into 3 jars labeled Save, Spend, and Give, he asked if she could add a 4th jar labeled Dream. She did, and it became her favorite page in the book. They communicated mostly through email and the occasional phone call. Professional, respectful, nothing to overthink. But over those 2 months, something shifted. Kaelen started asking about her weekends. Not in a flirtatious way, just genuine. Curiosity. Sydney found herself telling him about her mother's new promotion at the nursing home, about her brother's college applications, about the stray cat that had started sleeping outside her apartment door. He remembered every detail. When she mentioned 2 weeks later that the cat had disappeared, he sent a text saying, "Sorry about your little friend, hope he comes back." He did not try to fix it. He did not offer to buy her a new cat. He just acknowledged her loss. That alone made her feel more seen than Devon ever had. Meanwhile, Devon's life was falling apart in ways that would have been satisfying if Sydney still cared. The gym let him go after a client complained that he spent their sessions talking about his upcoming podcast. He started a podcast anyway called Accountability Hour, where he interviewed other men who claimed they had been canceled for nothing. The first episode was about Devon. He said Sydney had overreacted, and that Nia was the real victim because people called her a homewrecker. The episode got 400 listens. Most of them were his cousins. Nia heard the episode and confronted him on Instagram Live, calling him a liar and saying he had told her Sydney was already moved out. The live got clipped and reposted. Sydney's cousin sent it to her at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. Sydney watched 30 seconds, then closed her phone and went asleep. She had a deadline in the morning. The book launched 6 months after Sydney signed the contract. Kaelen published it under his company's nonprofit arm, which meant it went into 20,000 elementary school classrooms for free. Sydney's name was on the cover as the illustrator. She got an author copy in the mail and sat on her studio floor for 15 minutes just holding it. Her mother framed a page and hung it in the living room. Her brother posted it on his Instagram story and said, "My sister is really doing something." That post got more likes than anything Sydney had ever posted herself. Kaelen asked her to dinner 2 weeks after the launch. Not a work dinner, a real one. He called her and said, "I don't mix business with personal usually, but I'd like to try if you're open to it." Sydney said yes. He took her to an Ethiopian restaurant in Silver Spring, nothing fancy, just good food and low lights. He did not mention money. He did not mention the book. He asked her about her favorite drawing she had ever made. She told him about a sketch she did of her mother sleeping on the couch after a night shift, worn out but peaceful. Kaelen was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "That's the kind of love that made you." She looked at him across the table and realized she was not afraid anymore. Not of being hurt, not of being left, not of being too much or not enough. They dated quietly for 3 months before she told anyone. Her mother figured it out first because Sydney started coming home smelling like cardamom and smiling at her phone. When Diane asked if there was a new man, Sydney said yes and waited for the interrogation. It never came. Diane just said, "Does he make you laugh?" Sydney said yes. Diane said, "Then bring him to Sunday dinner." He came. He brought flowers for Diane and a college application guide for Sydney's brother. He stayed for 4 hours and washed his own plate. After he left, Diane looked at Sydney and said, "That one is not performing, that one is real." Sydney cried that night, but only for a minute. And only because she finally believed she deserved something good. But here is where the story does not end. Because while Sydney was building something real with Kaelen, Devon and Nia were building something else entirely. Devon's podcast got picked up by a small network that platforms canceled men. He started gaining followers who sent him money through Cash App with messages like, "Stay strong, King." Nia, who had been publicly humiliated after their Instagram Live fight, decided the best defense was a new offense. She started telling people that Sydney had actually been the one cheating first. No proof, just confidence. And in the age of the internet, confidence is often enough. Now here is what I want you to think about before part 2 drops. Who do you believe when everyone has a different version of the truth? How do you protect a new love when your old life keeps showing up at your door? And most importantly, what happens when a man with billions decides he is tired of watching his woman get dragged online? Because Kaelen Asant has never posted on social media, he has never defended himself publicly. But he has a team of lawyers, a company worth over $1 billion, and a quiet kind of anger that moves in silence. And Devon just posted a video calling Sydney a liar in front of 40,000 people. So here is the real question. Do you think Sydney should respond? Do you think she should let Kaelen handle it? Or do you think she should stay quiet and let them destroy themselves? Comment below, tell me right now. Sydney, speak if you want her to defend herself. Kaelen, handle if you want him to step in. Or stay silent if you think revenge is a waste of time. And subscribe, because part 2 drops soon. Hit the bell and I will see you in the next chapter.